This video is going to be on calculating averages from different frequency tables. So this frequency table is showing the numbers of times late to a lesson, and the frequency is showing the number of students that have these numbers of lates. So you can see we have 11 students that are never late, 8 students who are late once, 3 students who are late twice, 3 students who are late 3 times, 3 students who are late 4 times, and 2 students who are late 5 times. So the questions that could come up in the GCSE are basically asking for the different averages from this table and the range. Okay, so we're going to start off with finding the mode of the data. Now what we're doing here is we're just looking in the frequency column for the number which is the largest, which hopefully everybody can see is 11. Now, the big mistake that people make is that they write down 11 because they see it as the biggest number. But remember, the average that we're trying to get here is going to be the numbers of times late. So the actual answers that we're all going to get is going to be these sorts of numbers here. So the most common number of times late, or the mode, is 0. Okay, so now we're asked for the range of the data. And again, we're looking at these blue bits, the number of times late, and we want the biggest number, take away the smallest. And the biggest number of times late is 5. The smallest number of times late is 0. Take them away, and we get a range of 5. Okay, so how do we find the median? Well, the median is the middle number. Now, if we quickly find out how many students there are in total by adding up the frequency, you can see that we get 30. So there are 30 students in total. Now what we're going to do is count up the frequencies until we pass the middle of 30. Now the middle of 30 is 15, so we're going to count up the frequencies until we get past 15. So there are 11 students that were late no times, and there were 19 students that were late once. Now notice I've just passed the middle number 15, so my median number must be 1. Now to find the mean of the data, I need to add up all of the data and divide by how many there are. Now, in order to add all of these numbers up, I'm first going to have to make a new column in my table. Now, sometimes the questions in the exams give you this extra column, and sometimes they don't. You've got to draw the column on. Now, this next column is going to be the first column, which I've called X, and multiplied it by the second column, which I've called F for frequency. So I'm going to do 0 times 11. So out of the 11 people that were late 0 times, if I add up all those zeros, I get 0. So there are 8 people that were late once, so adding all of those ones up, I will get 8. There are 3 people that were late twice, so adding all of those 2's up, I would get 6. And I'm going to keep going, timesing my numbers of lates by my frequency. So now that I've got this last column filled, I need to find the total of those numbers in the last column, and that will give me what the data all added up would have been. So 8 and 6 is 14, add 9 is 23, add 12 is 35, add another 10 is 45. So adding those numbers up, I get 45. Now if you remember, the mean is all of them added up, which was 45, we just worked out, divided by how many there are. And there were 30 students in total, so I need to divide those numbers, 45 and 30. So 45 divided by 30 is 1.5. Notice again, this number is in the range of these numbers here. Okay, another type of question they could give you is when there is grouped data. Now you notice that this table is slightly different from the one before. Now this time this table is showing me the marks that some students got on a test. Now instead of listing every single individual score, which would basically be a table if the test was out of 100 with 100 entries, instead the table has groupings. So the first row has got all of the people that scored between 0 and 10, the next one between 10 and 20, the next row between 20 and 30, 30 and 40, and 40 and 50. And we find that most of the time, this is a more sensible way to draw a table than the one previously. So to begin with, I'm asked to find the modal class of the data. Now the modal class is basically exactly the same question as when we asked for the mode in the last question. Notice this word modal is very close to that word mode. So again, we're going to look at this column here, look for the biggest number, which is 17, and we're going to write the group that that 17 belongs to. And that group is 20 and 30. Remember, all of our averages are always going to be given as answers in this range here. Now they might ask you for the range of the data. Now we don't actually know the highest score that was got or the lowest score. We can only estimate this. And we know that the biggest possible score that somebody could have got was 50, which is this number down here. And the lowest possible score that somebody could have got is 0, which is this number here. So my range is going to be the biggest number, 50, take away 0, which is 50. Now the next question is asking for the median class. So this is very similar to the modal class that I had at the top here, only this time it's based on the median. Okay, again I'm going to use the same technique that I did last time in the last question. I'm going to add up all of these scores here to find out how many students in total there were. And there were 50. Now the middle number of 50 is 25, so I'm going to add up my frequencies until I go past 25, and then that class is going to be my median class. So firstly I've got 4, adding 9 onto the 4 I get 13, adding 17 onto 13 I get 30, and hopefully you've noticed I've just gone past 25, which means that my median class is 20 to 30. So the final question I'm asked to estimate the mean of the data. Now if you remember in the last question I just multiplied the first two columns together, but I can't do that here because I've got a group and I can't multiply a group by a number. So what I need to do is have a number that represents these groups, and that number is going to be the midpoint. So I'm going to have a new column in my table and I'm going to write the midpoint of each of the groups. Now the midpoint of 0 and 10 is 5. The midpoint of 10 and 20 is 15. 20 and 30 is 25. 30 and 40 is 35. 40 and 50 is 45. Now that I've got these representatives, I'm now going to do exactly the same thing I did last time. I'm going to multiply my midpoints by my frequencies. So this time my last column is going to be called MF. So 4 times 5 is 20. 9 times 15 is 135. 17 times 25 equals 425. 13 times 35 is 455. And 7 times 45 equals 315. Now don't worry if those calculations seem to be a little bit hard. This is usually on a calculator paper, so all of those calculations can be done on a calculator. Now if you remember the mean, we want to find the total of that last column, so we need to add all of those numbers up, which is 1,350. And we're going to have that number, divide it by how many there are, which is 50, and we're going to get the answer of 27. Okay, so hopefully that will help you to find averages from frequency tables and group frequency tables. Have a go at some exam questions, and good luck.